Welcome back to Magic Muggle, a Harry Potter after show. I'm Eric, aka Mr. Honest, and today we're covering chapters 13 through 15 of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone. I had almost gotten the British version of the books because I just wanted to see it as Philosopher's Stone in the book. However, fate led me back to my childhood Scholastic Edition hardcovers because I wanted to cherish them, make them sacred. And you can't help it. Even though I take the dust jacket off, the dust jacket still gets a little deformed. And then the book, you're breaking in the spine. So I heard J.K. Rowling in an interview from a while back, and I just appreciated something small that she said, because someone wanted to come get their book signed directly by her, and the kid was so embarrassed about the condition of the book. And the way she replied was, "That's good. That means you're reading it. That's how the book should be. It doesn't have to stay looking perfect. It's about your adventure going through it." Something along those lines. So I feel a little less bad, even though I'm trying with my hardest not to damage the book. I'd like to maybe give the whole set to my niece one day. I'm going to be an uncle this year. And I think, honestly, they're going to not look that good after all this. Especially with the extra time. So these are three very big chapters, and not long wise, but it's like where we're getting to the meat and potatoes. We learn finally, we actually hear Sorcerer's Stone, and kind of get a little more behind that. So, chapter 13, Nicolas Flamel. Let's get started with that big reveal. Nicolas Flamel. It's the name that has been eluding them since the beginning. And it turns out Flamel is the only known holder. I don't know if he's a maker, but he's a holder of the Philosopher's Stone, maybe the only. That stone isn't just some mystical object. It can turn any metal into gold and produce the elixir of life, immortality. And it is exampled by his birth year in the book. It's in the 600s. So it's definitely been used to keep Nicolas Flamel alive for a very long time. It's a classic Rowling moment, a mystery hiding in plain sight. The answer was on the frog, the frog candy, the toads, you know what I mean? And it says and reveals lifelong friend Nicolas Flamel. So Dumbledore is friends with Nicolas Flamel. This was a big revelation. But this is also the moment where we start connecting Dumbledore's quiet wisdom to Flamel's century-old secrets. The fact that the stone is here at Hogwarts, that is huge. Our characters don't underestimate that fact, and the stakes have never been higher. Also, the trio begins to question Snape more boldly now. This chapter contains another round of Quidditch that I'm going to say I didn't think we got to see in the movies. I think the only one we saw was when Harry caught it with his mouth and spat it up. So they win against Hufflepuff, and Snape is the referee. And he is so unfair. I don't know why Dumbledore is there watching him be kind of very unfair, but I think it's all to protect Harry. But I think it's important to note that ever since Harry went to go see the Mirror of Erised, he's having reoccurring nightmares of a flash of green light, people screaming, and someone laughing in a high-pitched voice. So he's actually seeing and recalling the death of his parents and the night that Voldemort was also defeated. So those dreams aren't just dreams. It's almost like an uncontrollable power Harry is gaining in his sleep. The fact that he stared in the Mirror of Erised for 3 nights in a row, not just one, maybe that can have that kind of negative effect, or even that effect at all. Maybe Dumbledore knows Harry will be having visions of his past when he needs to keep moving forward. Something I think we can actually all relate to. Moving on is important, but also getting to the bottom of a truth that seems very intriguing to these first-year Hogwarts students. Yeah, it's going to be important for them to figure out who Nicolas Flamel is and what is his relationship with Dumbledore. Well, we already know they figured out the Sorcerer's Stone is hiding at the school, and they put together that it's the safest place for it because Dumbledore is here. So at the end of the chapter, Harry spots Snape walking into the Forbidden Forest. He follows him overhead with his broom, and we get to hear a little bit of threatening going on. And the way we know it's the Sorcerer's Stone is Snape is threatening Quirrell about the stone, and we don't know exactly in what sense, but we do hear him talk about Hagrid's big-headed dog, Fluffy. And you just figure out how to get past that. And this told Harry, Ron, and Hermione one thing, that there are multiple things they have to get past to get to the stone. I love how into this Harry is. He's being celebrated as a hero for winning the Quidditch match in like record time against Hufflepuff. And all the while, after Harry sees that incident with Quirrell and Snape, he runs back to tell Ron and Hermione. Let's move on to Chapter 14, Norbert the Norwegian Ridgeback. I liked this chapter a lot. The chapter is just such a tone shift. It's hilarious and chaotic at first. Hagrid has illegally acquired a dragon egg. And of course, he's raising it in his small wooden hut. This is classic Hagrid. And it just reminds me like the gamekeeper. Oh my goodness. This man is infatuated with magical beast. It reminds me, it's like, honestly, I don't mean to call out some foreshadowing, but it is kind of cool because I did not notice this when I read these when I was younger. I think that them dealing with this situation kind of mirrors or foreshadows another situation similar with Hagrid in Chamber of Secrets, and maybe even a lot more serious for Hagrid. However, that is not where we're at now. We are just getting a taste of Hagrid's obsession with magical beasts. Ron gets a bite from Norbert. It leads to a hospitalization and consequences that they didn't really expect. It's the first time we really see how even a minor misstep can lead to a major rule breaking. What hits me here is how Joe Rowling uses Norbert to accelerate plot momentum. Hagrid's love of creatures, Harry and Hermione's willingness to break rules, and the dragon smuggling with Charlie Weasley's friends, it's all layered. I like how this chapter has a bit of a self-contained story. Although I don't, this may pick up. I don't know if we'll like see Norbert again, like in the fourth book for something I'm thinking of that you might know. And to be honest, I just think this was maybe one of the best self-contained story chapters, but it does probably lead them down that road. Because what happens after they finally get the dragon like through the castle up to the top with their invisibility cloak is a lot of work. They send him off with Charlie, and then they come down. They forgot to put the cloak back on, and the end of the chapter is them being caught by Filch. So we find out that Norbert could have grown like twice his size in like 2 weeks, and he eats rats and lots of disgusting things. And dragons are gross. And apparently also we learned that a lot about dragons really in this episode, which is kind of in this chapter, which is kind of cool. I like knowing that muggles see them, and then the wizarding community always has to perform like memory erasing charms on them and stuff. I wonder what makes dragons not allowed to be seen by muggles. Is it the magic community that created them, or is it just such a mystical creature that the magic community, the Ministry of Magic, the fact that there's like dragon heartstrings and wands and stuff, it kind of indicates that the dragons are more magical beasts. So I am just curious about the world's rules, the wizarding world's rules about dragons and how they even came to be when they're creatures of the wild. Something I wonder if will be answered, and if not, it's okay. It's kind of part of the mystery and the fun of everything. Malfoy sees the dragon while spying on Harry, because Ron and Malfoy, I didn't mention in the first chapter of Nicolas Flamel of the day, he was totally fighting Malfoy. He was talking bad about his family. Malfoy was really digging in. He's really becoming like such a jerk. He gets worse and worse with every interaction. And in this, he saw the dragon, and they were a little careless in this episode. He even stole Ron's book from the hospital that had the letter from Charlie in it. So Malfoy knows again about the plan to get rid of Norbert. And we get to see the satisfying scene where McGonagall catches Malfoy sneaking around. He even tries to tell her Harry Potter is harboring a dragon, and she doesn't believe him, and she takes a bunch of points away from Slytherin, and it's just nice to see all that attitude dished back towards Malfoy, even if he was telling the truth. And like I did say, the chapter ends with a little bit of recklessness and carelessness, and the final time maybe they'll actually learn their lesson because Filch catches them, and that's where this chapter ends. I just want to say one more thing before I move on to the next chapter, which is a big one. Hagrid's love for the dragon is so special. He even refers to himself as mommy. And I think that's like, Hagrid is such a lovable giant. And honestly, so much heart from these books can be carried over by Hagrid and his innocence. And, even though he's doing very dangerous things, he has positive intentions, and he clearly can't help himself. He won the dragon. Someone gave it to him in the bar he was at the other night, and I think that's very suspicious. And from that fact alone, I don't know if that where that leads, but I'm pretty sure that leads to something going forward. No spoilers, and this brings us to chapter 15, The Forbidden Forest. This chapter changes everything. Harry, Hermione, Neville, and Malfoy all in detention, all because they got caught on the same night doing. They were up to no good. McGonagall didn't find out what they were doing though, so I'd say that's probably better for the better. They're all walking into the Forbidden Forest at night. I believe that this is where the tone of the book fully shifts from school adventure to real danger. Now, the detention is not your regular detention, and for Harry, it was a bit of a relief to see that Hagrid was the one in charge of them and telling them what to do for the detention. However, going into the Forbidden Forest, even Malfoy was openly shaking in his boots to go in there. He does not want to go. So with Bane the dog, Hagrid, who, always got something going on with some magical animals, right? They all go in there. And they don't find much at first. Then they meet centaurs. We get to meet 3 centaurs in this chapter. Very cool. I loved the idea that just footsteps away, there's a whole other more magical secret world in the Forbidden Forest, and it's just always sparking curiosity. So the fact that this is our first time going in and we see a centaur, and what we're about to see, what they're about to see is a dead unicorn, and unicorns aren't really meant to be killed, right? One of the centaurs says it's going to give you a half life. You're gonna be clinging on to life. Usually the people who kill unicorns, they're evil, and the unicorn will keep them alive, and until, not ideally, they find something that will keep them alive more naturally, hence the Sorcerer's Stone. The unicorn being dead, it's it's dark, because it really kind of expresses the beauty of the thing. Even its blood is silver and blue. Like, that's not normal. That's magical. The hooded figure drinking straight from the tap is Voldemort. In the audiobooks, they say Voldemort. So I don't know about the silent T. I feel like I should have that figured out by now. And we know it, even if it's not named, we know. Well, we kind of get to the point where Harry actually comes to the conclusion that it is Voldemort. And it's the reaction of the centaurs of who Harry Potter is that he needs to get out of the forest now, because he's not safe there. And that was Voldemort somehow in his weakest form feeding off of unicorn blood. And that is very scary. Firenze the centaur is one of the most important figures here and the main centaur, but we meet him last. He saves Harry, and he introduces a concept that will come back again and again. The stars do not lie. Yeah, they all keep going on about how Mars is very visible tonight. And even when they're meeting them before the interaction with Voldemort, the centaurs just keep saying that same thing, like the Mars is bright tonight. They're funny creatures, and it's also noted that they're not funny. To me, they're funny, but it's also noted that they know more than they're leading on. So they're just not going to answer directly, and they're just trying to change the subject until Firenze realizes who he has on his back, and that's Harry Potter. And the stars do not lie. He's talking about prophecy, he's talking about fate, and he's talking about Harry's place in something much bigger. This chapter is what makes Harry a target. Not because he's reckless, but because he's part of something ancient and dark that even the stars speak of. It's also one of the most emotionally intense scenes in the whole book. The combination of dread, mystery, and myth, it's pure fantasy grounded in real fear. It almost feels like step by step Harry is being led into worse situations, starting with when they think it's Snape trying to hurt him on his broomstick and him refereeing. These three chapters really come together, and the plot kind of works more against Harry than it has. It kind of has like a walls closing in kind of vibe. Even though they're with Hagrid, they're still going to do something and witness something very cruel, and it's the death of a beautiful animal, a unicorn. I want a unicorn. If I were Hagrid, I'd want a unicorn, not a dragon. Why wouldn't you want a unicorn? Anyway, it's just really a special moment when we realize it's Voldemort and he's actually at play in the story, because we don't really know for sure. Harry thinks of the time that Hagrid was telling him about Voldemort, and every time he says Voldemort, by the way, Ron freaks out at him and tells him to stop saying it. But it just clicks that it's not that he's not dead. Voldemort's out there, alive, feeding off of unicorn blood. We know he's weak, but we know he's alive. And that's what makes this kind of like the turning point in the whole story. So Harry goes back to the castle, and under his bed, folded nicely with a note, it says, just in case, his invisibility cloak. Why? Why does, is it, I mean, for one, is this Dumbledore? Because it feels like it's Dumbledore. I believe he gave him the cloak in the first place. I'm genuine here. I'm not just saying this. I have read the books, but it's been a while. This detail, I don't know. And I hope we find out. Because if Dumbledore's leaving him the invisibility cape, it's almost like he wants him to be sneaking out. It's almost like he wants him to go through the trap door. And that will be chapter 16. Next week, we start the final two chapters. Last week, I mentioned we're going to be doing chapter 16 and 17, separate individual episodes. I'll tell you what, that's going to be up in the air for me now, depending on how I read and how many notes and how much I want to talk about for each chapter. We may just make it one great finale episode, and it will be a little bit longer because the chapters bring everything to a conclusion, obviously. So an hour and 3 minutes precisely is what's left of my audiobook that I read along with. My ADD is so fun. But it's not a pity party here. Trust me. It just really keeps my mind double down in the book. And Jim Dale, what an amazing narrator. If you were considering just listening to Harry Potter, I'd go with the Jim Dale narrations, because he has his own voice for the characters. I swear, even McGonagall's voice sounds a little bit like the movie McGonagall. He's so good. So hearing his voice as I'm reading really puts the story right in my head in the tone that it's probably meant to be. It's a crutch, yes, but it's a necessary one for me to maintain attention. And these books are far from boring, and it's just easier for me to have the books on. I don't know why I'm defending that. It's not a big deal. But I'm also trying to stay honest with you, keep it transparent. So these three chapters move us into the final act. The innocence is fading, and Hogwarts is no longer just wonder and feast and spells. It is a place where death walks in the woods and dark forces gather strength. And Harry, he is beginning to understand that he's not just in this story. He's central to it. One of the first times of many, Harry's scar is hurting. And that's when he sees Voldemort. We learn more and more about that, not just in this book, but as the series progresses. And I gotta say, I'm pretty excited to be moving to the next book, like just knowing where the story goes. I'm not rushing it whatsoever. However, again, we'll play next week by ear. We may just finish up the book in a nice long episode. And then the week after, we will watch Harry Potter. It depends on me reading it and how much I think I want to discuss each chapter. So thank you for listening. We have a tip jar available in our About section. Never expected, always appreciated. We don't have a Patreon yet. You can email us at magicmugglepod@gmail.com with your thoughts, theories. We don't want to go into spoilers, but we can definitely talk about what's going to be coming up in Chamber of Secrets without spoiling it. And we can summarize Sorcerer's Stone. What was your favorite part, or what is your favorite part of Sorcerer's Stone, the book and or the movie? A lot of us grew up on the movies. Some of us grew up on the books. I'd say that I was around for the craze of the books being released, and I'm telling you, I had never seen any book ever swipe. Everyone was in the store. I remember when the Goblet of Fire came out, and I was at Toys R Us. There, every kid in the store had one. I'm not even kidding. Like everywhere I looked, everyone had a Harry Potter book. These stories are legendary. So going through them at this pace, it's exactly why I'm still considering maybe taking a little extra time to honor what Through the Trapdoor is in Harry Potter, and it may really deserve its own episode. However, I don't want to set expectations for you and make it seem like I'm milking the book for content, even though I don't think I am. Anyways, thank you. If you're enjoying this journey with me, please share the show with a friend, anyone that you know that likes Harry Potter. Leave a review, definitely on Apple. That goes a long way. Or support us through the tip jar. Like I said, on Patreon. It's never expected, always appreciated. Every bit helps as we continue to explore the magic. Also, listen to my show, Marvel Maniac and MCU After Show. We post Wednesdays and Fridays, 5 a.m. Central. And I hope you have a wonderful week. Until next time, wands down, hearts full.